I am so glad you joined us again today. You know, I'm excited to be here because I have something in me called hope. I have hope because Jesus Christ lives in my heart. You know, today there's a lot of stuff going on. Sometimes we call it stress, sometimes we call it life, but sometimes, let's be honest, it gets very, very difficult. And it's important that we take care of ourselves, not just on the outside, but on the inside. Now, I'm a lifter type guy. I like to train with weights. I like to train physically. But I will tell you this, if training physically was all there ever was to it, I would be hurting. It's about the whole picture, inside and out. I have to train myself intellectually, emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually, and also physically. I put all those together, I'm able to deal with life a little more effectively, because life's not going to get easier. You know, the scriptures talk about life, and I'm a Christian man. I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of Him. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go through life with no problems. As a matter of fact, the Word of God in John chapter 16 speaks very, very clearly and very, very directly about what this world is going to be like and what it is like right now for the Christian man and woman and person. So I'm going to read to you something really quick here. It's found in the book of John, and one verse I'll read here that I really think is all that is necessary today to read. And it's found in John chapter 16, specifically verse 33. So John 16:33, and Jesus is giving some instructions and some teaching to His disciples. And He says something very, very powerful to them in John 16, verse 33. And I'm going to read this right now. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. It doesn't say might. It doesn't say you possibly could. It doesn't say maybe. It says you will have trouble. Now, I got to pause right there for a second, because a lot of times we think, and we sometimes get the indirect belief, or even, unfortunately, sometimes the indirect teaching, that being a Christian means we're going to have this rose-colored, just always just a peaceful life with no problems. But it's quite the contrary. We're going to have problems. Jesus Himself says, in this world, you will have trouble. I love that word, but, because that means a lot. It kind of cancels out everything behind it. That's one of my favorite words in the dictionary. It's one of my favorite words that God uses sometimes. Because He says, but take heart, I have overcome the world. You see, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how tough it gets, no matter how difficult the trial or the struggle is, we have hope in Jesus because He's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and made it through. I think it's really cool because I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast about training with weights, which is something I really, really like to do. But I understand the process that I have to go through to have muscular growth. Few really realize that the process occurs much more differently than they think. It's not about lifting the weights that causes the progress. It's about lifting the weights and those weights tearing down or breaking or giving those muscles, if you will, trouble. They actually get torn apart microscopically. And the only way that those things recover is through rest. Once the rest occurs, those muscles recover, they rebuild, and they compensate for the weight or the resistance that I just faced, and they compensate for not just that resistance, but the resistance that I will face again at an even greater capacity. That's called muscular growth. This is so applicable to what we're talking about today with troubles. It is a stressful world. The economic uncertainty we have, the financial uncertainty, all this talk about where we're going to be as a country in 5, 10, 15 years, nobody knows. But I know who knows. His name is Jesus Christ. And He gives us hope through no matter what circumstance comes our way. And I've had a lot of troubles in my life. Let's face it, man. I've been through all kinds of stuff, and I don't have time to go into them. But trust me when I say this, I care enough to be right here, trusting God, to knowing that He got me through. And I've been through some tough times, man. And you know what? Sometimes people will look at me and say, well, how do you keep going? It's not me. There is no way that I could get through the struggles, the troubles, and the trials that I've had through life if I didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. You see, without Him, I have no hope. That's why people are so stressed out these days, so at their emotional max. There's so many emotional breakdowns happening these days in people's lives because they're looking for hope and they're not finding it. And quite frankly, if you look so hard with so much effort and you don't have any luck, who wouldn't be frustrated? We're seeing frustration manifested out these days in violent, evil, hateful acts. People are dying because it's manifest of people looking for hope and not finding it. Stress is real these days. And today, once again, I have my guest, Erin Schreyer, back. And Erin, thank you so much again for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
You know, we talk about stress, and you specifically talk about some things and how you tie them all together in your leadership teaching, and your leadership teacher in Dallas, I understand, correct?
Yes.
And you teach people how to actually be better finding their purpose. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Right. I talk a lot, actually, throughout the country on 3 topics, and I think they all are very intertwined. I talk about purpose, I talk about strengths, not these muscle kind of strengths, but the strengths and talents that God gave you, and then I tie that into leadership. And kind of how those 3 things tie together are, if you look at people, humankind, most people walk around wondering, why am I here? What's my purpose? And certainly as you travel through life, until people start to uncover bits and pieces of that and really understand that, they find themselves searching. And they gain more peace, more hope, more joy as they do find that. I like to use the analogy of a tool belt, which coincides with strengths, which is the second piece that I often talk about. I feel as though when each of us is born, we're all given this tool belt. If you can imagine a tool belt around your waist, like a plumber might wear, or a construction worker. And we each have tools in our tool belt that were put there specifically to help us most effectively and most successfully get through life. Each of us has our own set of tools, but it's up to us to look down and to see, what tools do we have in our tool belt? Pick that tool up. We have to be the ones to pull it out of our tool belt and use it and get the practice, kind of that muscle memory,
exactly.
and that muscle growth that you were talking about. Get that practice using that tool. And those tools that He's given each of us really are our strengths, those things which we're very good at doing, and at the same time, they energize us. All of that ties into leadership, because really what leadership is proactively using our strengths, leveraging them, investing them not only in ourselves and in our purpose, but in others, and really encouraging people to bring those out. So they're all 3 very intertwined.
I love that. So leadership is actually doing what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it, where we're supposed to do it, using the right tools that God has given us.
That's right.
Now, are my tools the same tools as are given you?
Absolutely not, because you're going to walk a different path in life than I am. You're going to be equipped differently. Your personality is different than mine, so you're going to react to things differently. So God knows all this, and so He equips us very differently so that each one of us can successfully navigate what path we walk down.
And I think it was really intriguing what you said about those tools, because you're saying the first time you begin to use tools, it's kind of a little bit new to you. Maybe you're not the best at using that tools, but what you're saying is the more we utilize the tools that we have, we'll get better at them.
Absolutely, and I think it becomes important for us to pay attention to what we love doing, not things that are necessarily a hobby. A hobby might be things that energize us, but we're not as good at doing. But those things that through practice we find, wow, I get some really great results doing these things, or people notice when I do this that it's kind of above average and really exceptional. So we need to pay attention to what those things are. And by the way, Mark, those are great stress relievers.
Stress. We just talked about stress and the troubles that we're going to have in this world. So explain to me how using those tools is going to help me reduce or conquer stress.
Sure. Well, if you think about a challenging work environment, or even a challenge at home or in any type of organization, the worst thing that we can do to stress ourselves out is to feel like we have to use skills or talents that we don't have, or even worse than that, when people expect us to copy somebody else or to be like somebody else, because we're never going to succeed doing that, and we're always going to feel like we're a fish out of water. But when we can become much more aware of, again, what energizes us and what we're naturally good at, when we can use those tools, you know, it's interesting, you talk about our muscle growth. Our brains biologically are designed to fire off neurons when we're doing things. And our brain has the capacity to fire more neurons at a greater pace and create more brain density in areas of our strengths. And so what that means for all of us is you grow faster, you become more effective in areas of strength. So it's important to figure out what those are, to use them, to practice them, and you will become better at them exponentially faster than by trying to leverage your weaknesses.
You know, that really speaks to me, because as a person that's involved in the physical training in so much, I understand that in the human body, some of us have more fast twitch muscle fibers versus slow twitch muscle fibers. And it's not important to know the difference, but knowing they have different functions. So to find out why a person can run for a longer period of time versus a person that can sprint really fast, we find out what we're good at, and we excel in those areas.
That's right.
And that in turn gives us confidence.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that. We're going to watch a video on stress really quick, and we're going to see a great depiction of what stress is, and we're going to come back, and I want to give some practical steps we can do, practical steps to actually begin to conquer this stress, to deal with these trials and troubles a little bit better than we do. So enjoy the video you're going to see right now, and just keep in mind we're talking about stress and how to deal with it a little bit better, and how to actually not just deal with it, but actually conquer it, because stress is something that's going to get us. So just sit right back and check this out. What is the one thing that we all have in common? Young or old, male, female, black, Asian, white, rich or poor. It's the traffic jams, kids late for school, a work schedule thrown completely off. It's facing another day not knowing how you're going to pay the mortgage, or knowing your savings just evaporated. It's life. It's just life. Every day, everybody, life. The commonality is stress. We all face stresses in our lives. No one can escape it. No one is immune. The question then becomes not what are the causes, rather what are the effects? And can those effects be controlled? Can those effects be conquered? The answer, as it stands, is no. Stress wins every day. High blood pressure, heart disease, divorce, suicide. But scriptures give us some biblical principles to help us overcome the stressors in our life. So the answer then becomes yes in Christ. So I invite you to take the journey with me to learn these biblical concepts and principles to conquer stress and develop wellness. You know, one thing I find about what you saw in that video was stress being synonymous with something called life. You know, one of the best definitions of stress that probably I've ever seen is something that goes something like this. Stress is the action you take in response to life's unexpected or expected occurrences. Meaning that stress is actually not something that is a noun, but it's a verb. It's something we do. It's what the action is that we take in response to some things we have no control over. For example, sometimes we don't have control over the unexpected death of a loved one or the unexpected financial problems of a company. You know, stress, these anxiety-producing events that occur in life, they really can take effect on us in a negative way. The more anxiety is up, we begin to have resistances go down in regard to acquiring diseases physically and also even diseases emotionally. Our emotions just collapse. And as we were saying at the beginning of the program, people are looking for the answers. They're searching. They recognize the problem, but they're looking in the wrong places. And when you don't find it, when you're trying to be something you're not or look in the wrong places for the answers, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to have problems, and you're never going to be successful. Our guest today, Erin Schreyer, is talking about how to be successful in dealing with these stressors in life. Erin, if I come up to you and let's say I ask you a question, something like this, Erin, if you had 3 or maybe 4 things to tell me in regard to dealing with these troubles, these stressors in life, what would they be?
You know, it's a great question, and I think one that can help us all. I would say those 3 things would be, first, to really shore yourself up before you have a stressful situation. Know what's important to you. I would also say kind of the realms that you talk about. Make sure that you're whole and complete spiritually, mentally, physically. Make sure that you're shored up. The second thing I would say is be very intentional. And it goes back to that purpose, those strengths, and that leadership. Really own what you're supposed to be doing in life and be confident in that, so that you can be very intentional with how you react to things, knowing that you've got something you're supposed to be doing with your life. And then I would say the third thing is to build up the right community, the right resources around you, so that when you aren't having your best day and you might feel as though somebody's able to just, or something's able to just break your wall down a little bit, that you've got people around you that are willing to help lay those bricks back up to keep you solid and confident and sure.
So support structure.
Absolutely, yes.
How important is it to have that support structure? I mean, if I am shored up on my own and I'm doing okay, if I don't have that support structure, what's going to happen to me eventually?
Well, you know, Mark, we're all human.
Yes, we are.
and so we all fail at times. Though we don't want to, it's part of being human. And so I think it's critically important to have the right things in your support structure, to know that you have great people in your life who think similarly, who will speak truth to you even when you're doing something wrong, who will be able to encourage you in ways that other people can't. Both men and women in your lives, regardless if you're a man or woman, I think it's important to have both. Friends, family, people at church, other relationships. It's critically important to have a great support system.
So 2 things I pick up on there about that support system is this. Number 1, we better be very, very careful about who we choose to surround ourselves with.
Absolutely.
And secondly, we don't surround ourselves with yes people all the time.
That's right.
If someone loves you, they're going to tell you how it is, and they're going to tell you the truth, even though it might sting a little bit. Scriptures talk about that, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to surround yourself with people who share your values and who are willing to speak truth with love. And that's kind of how I phrase it. And I tell all of my friends that, hey, you know, if you see me doing or saying anything that isn't consistent with who I am and how you know me, call me out on it, please. Help me to be the best mother that I can be, the best wife I can be, the best professional I can be, because I'm human and I have bad days too, and I scream at my kids just like everybody else, but I want somebody to hold me accountable to that.
You scream at your kids.
Occasionally, yes.
And you're normal like everybody else.
That's right.
And even though you're teaching about how to conquer and get through these times, you go through those times too.
Absolutely. I'm just as human as the next person. But I need to think about what's in my tool belt and how I can effectively use those things to combat those stressful times, because I've been given all the right resources, no different than any other person, Mark. We've all been given exactly the right tools that we need to be successful in life.
And I'm sure that you, as well as I, have at times tried to use somebody else's tools.
Sure.
And that doesn't work very well.
It doesn't.
You know, the thing I find that's amazing about what you're saying, it's so simple, but yet it seems so unattainable at times because we're trying to we're spending all of our effort looking in the wrong areas instead of just being simple, embracing who we are, surrounding ourselves with the right people. When we do what we're supposed to, that energizes us and in turn brings encouragement in not only our lives, but other people's lives as well.
Absolutely, and that's another topic that I often end up talking about is authenticity. Really owning who you are and becoming the best that only you can be. You can't be the best somebody else. You can only be the best you. And that's why we're all given different things in life to be able to use different strengths, different talents, different personalities. We're all wired differently. He knows every hair on our head, and so he's made each one of us differently.
That's really cool because I look at the way the scriptures God kind of lays out us working as a body.
Yes.
That means that everybody can't be a thumb and everybody can't be a finger. Somebody's got to be a big toe.
That's right.
But that big toe is a great balancer for the body. So that's kind of what you're saying, right? Everybody doing their part makes the body work well, and even on a corporate level, if everybody does their part and embraces who they are and the best that they can be, then in turn that corporation or business will begin to function better as a body. Is that kind of what you're
That's
saying?
exactly, and I'll use a different analogy, but similar. If you think about the folks that are in an orchestra and all of the different instruments, they're all different. And if you didn't give anybody music, or there wasn't a conductor standing up there, a leader, so to speak, and just ask them to play, they might start at different times, they might play at different speeds, and it's not going to sound like beautiful music. It's not until they're all working together that it then becomes beautiful music. You can have incredibly talented individuals, but when they're acting as an individual, it's never as effective as the whole orchestra working together.
That is so amazing because, and trust me, I don't play music, but I have heard them warming up before an orchestra event or performance.
Sure.
And truthfully, it doesn't sound very good.
Right.
It's just a bunch of noises.
That's right.
But man, when they blend together, that's some of the most beautiful, harmonious sounds that you could ever hear. All those horns and flutes all playing together rhythmically to make it really magical.
That's right.
At that moment. That is so cool because I think sometimes that it seems to me that a lot of our issues that we face, those uncontrollable issues at times,
Sure.
we try to handle them by not being ourselves and not owning who we are.
That's right.
And I think we find ourselves very frustrated by that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I can't be good at being somebody else, and nobody else can either.
Do you think that some of the emotional breakdowns that we have in the world today are tied to people that are just so frustrated with looking in the wrong areas for hope, for identity, for purpose?
Oh, I think absolutely, absolutely. I think I would probably say similarly to you, if we look to God first, He is our rock, and He will give us the absolute strongest foundation that we can have. But again, I feel so strongly that He's equipped each one of us because He loves us, and He wants us to have the best life possible. He wants that for us.
Yeah.
And so I think if we can accept that and truly embrace and live that, that's what He wants. So it's really just walking in alignment with Him, and that's really what strengths, what purpose, even leadership is really all about. And let me assure you, if you're walking with Him versus against, I can guarantee you'll have a less stressful life.
I try to walk against it. I'm not going to win. And truly, I think sometimes as a good father that He is, even when we get off, He loves us enough to say, hey, Erin, hey, Mark, back over here.
For sure.
Come over here with me and get back on the right path.
That's right.
And realize who you are in me.
That's right.
I'm thankful that we have a relationship with Jesus who's our true example of what it means as being a rock. Someone, you mentioned the steadiness, the consistency, the dependability. I think that's amazing. Erin, this has been a joy today. And you know what I want you to know, friends, that today in the world more than ever, there is a lot of stuff out there that that's trying to tempt you or draw you towards trying to be certain things or to be certain people. We see in popular Hollywood these days, there's people we look at and we hear the words from a little kid, I want to be just like them. But let's face it, we're all humans and we're all fallible. We're all going to go through difficult times. And we need to understand who we are in Christ. All of us are made different. Erin, I want you right now out there, I just feel strongly like this, that I want you to take about 30 seconds and look right in that camera and encourage people by telling them who they can be in Christ.
I would say that Christ made you, that God made you purposefully, lovingly, with great care and attention to be exactly who you are. And so He created a purpose for you. He's got great plans for you. And the more that you can know Him, follow Him, embrace those plans, and live them to the fullest, doing your very best to be who you are, who you were designed to be, I truly believe that's where we'll all find the greatest joy.
Amen to that. That is a true statement. And, you know, she shared her heart today, Erin Schreyer. I want you to check her out, get on her website, Sagestone. That's her happy place. That's how we remember that. But check her out. And friends, I want you to know, nobody can be you like you. You can try to be somebody else, but you will fail. I've tried to be somebody else many times, and I've realized there's things that I do that are well because God made me that way. He gave me the tools that I can use if I trust Him. And when I've tried to do other things or use other people's tools, I find myself frustrated and destined for failure. I am the only person that can be me through Jesus Christ, all I can be. You are the only person that can be you. So be the best you can be, because nobody does you better than you. You are not here watching this program by accident, by happenstance, or by chance. You are here on purpose. And yes, you are on purpose. You're not just on purpose, you are purpose. You are here for a purpose. Live it out. Be about the things of God. Trust in Him as your rock. Let Him equip you with those tools, and you'll find that as you use those tools, you will be all you can be in Him. God bless you.